The skin of the earth, Adama. A thin layer of fertile soil called topsoil sustains all terrestrial life on Earth. Nothing can live without food, and the food chain begins with the soil. "530 years ago, the soil of the Americas thrived, untouched by plow, harrow, or chemical fertilizer. The Europeans mistakenly believed the land was a wilderness, with only a small, scattered population and virtually untouched by human hands. The settlers took it upon themselves to tame, cultivate, and populate this land. And although their first attempts at farming here the European way met with absolute disaster, the burgeoning new civilization quickly abandoned the wisdom of the indigenous people whose generosity and teaching saved their lives over the course of those first seasons. We now know that those native people cultivated the earth and its fruits in harmony with nature, from a deep understanding of the connectedness and interrelationship of all things. Finally, we are waking up to realize that their methods of growing food and of husbanding the earth and the soil hold a key not only to restoring our broken ecosystems, but also the health of the human body. All life depends upon the soil, but not only do soils nourish every living thing on Earth, soil is a living thing itself. You may have never thought of soil as being alive, but soil is a living superorganism. Like the human microbiome, soil is host to billions of essential bacteria, as well as fungi, protozoa, and other beneficial organisms. The human body is really a local ecosystem. The soil is an ecosystem too. It is so complex that soil scientists understand it far less than doctors understand the human body. Like the body, soil is a temple, an electric company, a radio station, warehouse, pharmacy, water treatment plant, sewage treatment plant, a library, bank, and garden. The departments responsible for overall soil and body health are not isolated, however. Every part is interdependent. We are holistic beings, and the soil is a holistic organism. The web of soil health is bound with the web of plant health. Plant health is likewise bound with the web of human health. Like a woven fabric, one broken thread begins the unraveling of the entire structure. At the root level, the leading cause of disease is diet. Many diseases are linked to our food choices and the quality of food we eat. We consider ourselves well-fed in the West, but while we are well-fed, we are also undernourished. Westerners largely consume an energy-rich but nutrient-poor diet. 75 to 80% of the population fail to meet the recommended intake of fruits and vegetables. Yet, it isn't always as simple as just choosing fruits and veggies at the grocery store. There is a growing awareness that our produce does not have the nutritive content it carried many years ago. Our soil is depleted, and the plants and animals that depend on it are increasingly depleted as well. Disease, in both the human body and the soil, is an indicator that something in the greater system is out of balance. Plant materials provide a major source of trace elements to mankind. The concentration of trace elements in plants and the consequent levels of dietary intake by humans are influenced by the type of soil on which the plants are produced, the type and quality of fertilizer applied, and by the species and variety of plants grown. Incredibly, the National Health and Nutrition Examination indicates that children and adults have high rates of deficiency in key vitamins and minerals. A whopping 1/3 of Americans are at risk for at least one vitamin deficiency, and the statistics for certain micronutrients are as high as 91 to 94%. According to Dr. Kajiap of the Center for Gut Microbiome Research, the food we eat provides nutrients to support both the growth and diversity of our microbiome. At least 70 to 80% of immune cells are located in the gut. Imbalances in the microbiome have been associated with inflammation and many chronic diseases. Healthy individuals have a different population of gut bacteria than diseased people, and those populations are often a direct result of dietary content. Supplements, while useful in the absence of nutritious food, are not the ideal method of getting nutrients into the body. Most supplements are synthetic rather than natural, and are therefore not complete full-spectrum vitamins as found in natural food. For example, a study indicating vitamin E as protective against Alzheimer's also found that the vitamin from food, but not from supplements, offered protection. Trace elements are important for the function of many organs, including the brain, pituitary, and thyroid. Not all micronutrient deficiencies result in obvious clinical symptoms, however. Deficiencies may also cause covert symptoms, such as general fatigue, insomnia, impaired cognition, memory, and mood. Soil copper deficiencies have even been linked to higher cancer incidence among local populations. Soil is indeed the placenta of life. As the fetus is connected to the mother, receiving nourishment from her, so we are connected to the earth. Our health depends on the condition of our mother ground. Life in the soil, in the body, and on the earth at large is an interconnected web. Fortunately, we can look at the strands of this web to know whether our soil life is failing or flourishing. According to Dr. Elaine Ingham of the Soil Food Web School, the health of our soil system depends on the presence, abundance, diversity, and balance of several indispensable players. These include bacteria, protozoa, nematodes, arthropods, plants, organic matter, birds, and animals. These key contributors function as vital signs of soil and plant health. They allow us to diagnose our soil, much as we diagnose the human body. There is so much more going on in the soil and contributing to plant and human health than you might have imagined. You might be wondering, how and why are all these little creatures so essential? Let's look at some of the strands of our soil web a little more closely. Soil organic matter, also known as humus, is one of the key vital signs of soil health. Humus is basically carbs, plant and animal proteins that have been broken down and reformulated by microbes in the soil. It's similar to how the human body breaks down proteins, carbs, and micronutrients and transforms them into blood and tissue. You might think of humus as the flesh of the soil. This soil organic matter serves as food for beneficial bacteria and fungi and builds a healthy physical structure in the soil, improving its fluffiness, tilth, as well as acting as a buffer to keep soil pH stable. Because of the sponginess created by humus, organic matter facilitates the infiltration of vital air and water into the soil and holds it where it can be assimilated by plant roots. Like the quality of human blood and tissue, the quality of humus is determined by what is fed to the soil. An unbalanced diet will result in deficiencies or excesses that are then passed on to plants. Soil that is rich in well-balanced humus will support enormous numbers of beneficial organisms that continue the circle of health in both the plants and soil itself. These tiny helpers serve as the soil's immune system, fighting off disease-causing organisms with natural chemicals, antibiotics, and physical traps. The plants that grow from this live, healthy soil placenta are then tastier and more nutritious, free of disease, pests, and toxic chemicals. Sadly, a report published by Oxford soil scientists found that cultivated soils contain less humus than virgin soils. They discovered that the way many farmers work their land lowers the total amount of humus. The humus that is left is less valuable nutritionally and more easily leached out of the soil. Scores of studies now demonstrate that modern agricultural methods are stripping nutrients from the soil in which our food supply is grown. Research from the US, Canada, and United Kingdom all indicate that nutrient content in food has dramatically declined over the course of the 20th century. One study concluded that a person would have to eat 8 oranges today in order to get the same amount of vitamin A as our grandparents would have gotten from 1. Dr. William Albrecht proved that crops can often grow for years on a deficient soil before they finally show signs of missing something. Crops can produce well without accumulating enough nutrition for animal and human health to be sustained. The reason crops may give high yields and appear normal is that plant tissue bulk is mostly made up of carbohydrates, which largely require only carbon dioxide and water to form. Yields may be high, but when essential health-promoting elements are missing, quality and nutrient content are low. Farmers are not concerned with trace element fertilization because it does not affect yield. Yet the public pays the price in increased need for expensive healthcare, and the earth pays the price as the strands of its natural ecosystem unravel. Science shows that our soil is being destroyed by harvests without sufficient replacement of nutrients, lack of cover cropping, compaction from heavy machinery, and salinization associated with irrigation methods. Industrial agriculture's excessive reliance on synthetic nitrogen fertilizer also carries enormous environmental impacts. As excess nitrogen leaks into streams and rivers, it feeds a colossal annual algae bloom, which devastates sea life. Emissions of nitrous oxide, a greenhouse gas 300 times more potent than carbon, injures our atmosphere, and precious organic matter in the soil is also destroyed. Plowing and tilling pulverizes the natural soil structure, creating hardpan, cutting off root elongation, exponentially increasing erosion and degradation of life-sustaining topsoil. Desertification and runoff of nutrients is an increasing and ongoing crisis. About 49% of food grown globally is grown outside of existing planetary boundaries, with 25% of this coming from the overexploitation of soil resources. Learning to farm with biology is essential now more than ever in order to restore the health of both the planet and people. There's something amazing going on in the natural ecosystem of this forest, something that can teach us how our gardens can also thrive. It's an incredible communication system known as the Wood Wide Web. Dr. Suzanne Simard coined the term, describing incredible underground fungal networks that allow trees to send and receive messages and to share resources that those in different areas of the forest need. The fine hairs of tree roots are connected to these fungal threads and can use them to signal for water or other nutrients available elsewhere. The trees are so connected that scientists describe their function as a superorganism. Yet trees are not the only ones communicating with little helpers in the soil. Although plants receive energy from the sun, they depend on the web of soil organisms in order to acquire nutrients in a form they are able to assimilate. It's similar to how our digestion works. We eat foods that contain nutrients we need. Yet, we're dependent on our teeth, saliva, stomach acid, and gut in order to break down our food into forms we can assimilate. Like trees, food plants use specific exudates to communicate their needs to bacteria and fungi in the soil. If we destroy the bacteria and fungi, we've disrupted the web and compromised the soil's immune system. The plants become stressed and deficient, and diseases develop. Disease in the body, in the soil, and in plants do not come from a vacuum. They always have a cause. Everything needs to be in balance. Everything is interdependent. Humans, Dr. Ingham points out, are at the center of the food web. Thus, it is our duty to make sure the entire system is functioning in balance. We are here as caretakers, but instead of guarding and shepherding the harmonious balance of nature, we have been destroying soil organisms through the use of toxic chemicals, inorganic fertilizers, and destructive agricultural practices. Soil organisms feed the soil then feeds the plant, and the plant feeds us. We are in turn supposed to feed the soil system again. Someone has to close the loop. Someone needs to nourish the soil. We need gardeners, ranchers, farmers, and families to help restore balance and harmony. If we stop fighting nature, stop killing pests and weeds with chemicals, and focus on soil health, holistic soil health eliminates all these other issues as life is restored to its proper balance. Indigenous agriculture incorporated food growing practices that work with nature instead of against it. Native farmers combined intercropping and agroforestry to produce high yields in limited spaces. They used permaculture, silvopasturing, and other sustainable methods adapted to their specific environments to maintain the harmony of nature while providing for their people. The indigenous people remind us that our bodies were born from the body of the earth. Somewhere along the way, we got to thinking that we are completely separate, but we are perpetually connected. When we cease to take from nature to serve ourselves, she gives her gifts to us freely, and we complete the circle of love and life by giving back to her and nurturing her as she does us.